everyone, and welcome to episode number 18 of Lavender Cottage Fibre Arts podcast. I'm Pia.
And my name's Anna.
And we're two sisters from Naarm or Melbourne in Australia who have, this is our podcast about all things relating to fibre arts and also some other kind of crafty endeavours as well. So mostly knitting, but a few other bits and pieces of crochet, weaving. I do a bit of pottery or ceramics as well.
Yeah, I think today I only have knitting as far as I'm aware, but I know you've got some other bits and pieces as well.
Yes. Yeah. But so before we get into the podcast, we'd just like to acknowledge that we are recording this podcast on the lands of the Wurundjeri people, who are the traditional owners of the land on which we're recording this podcast. We extend our respect to their elders past, present and emerging, as well as any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people watching this video.
So I guess normally we have a podcast and then a knit and chat and then a podcast, but we've skipped our knit and chat for this time around. Just because Pia's been on holidays.
Yes, she was away for a week and a bit.
A hike along the Great Ocean Road in the south of Victoria.
Yes, from Apollo Bay to the 12 Apostles.
So we thought we would forego our knit and chat and just make a podcast episode, but then we'll have a knit and chat
as our next one.
Yes. So we kind of run this like a standard knitting or crochet podcast. So we have finished objects and then works in progress and then future plans at the end. So I think we can probably jump straight into our first section.
Yes.
Yep. So our first section, we call it Hot Off the Hooks, and this is where we share any projects that we've finished since the previous episode. Mm-hmm. Do you have any finished objects?
No.
That's okay.
Yeah, again.
I only have two this time around, actually. I think I've been spreading my attention across like various different endeavours, and if I'm being perfectly honest, these two are not completely finished because I haven't blocked them, and some of them I actually haven't woven in all the ends yet. But I think I'm just going to call them
close
enough to finished. So they're two pairs of socks. I only bought one pair of sock blockers here, so I've got one on the blocker and one just in free space. So these ones, I think I did have them as a whip in our previous episode. So I'll just hold them a little bit closer so you can see the yarn.
Sorry, is it focused?
No, it's okay. All right, I should say yarns because after I finished those blue monochromatic scrappy socks, I just felt like making more monochromatic scrappy socks. So I just found a whole bunch of pink and purple. Some of them are leftovers and some of them are from Little Woolly. She does those 10-gram scrappy packs. So I basically just found, I think, 6 colours that I liked.
I like this, and this one. What's this? Do you remember?
Yeah, like, to be honest, all of the ones that are in this sock, I actually don't know what they are. They're either from minis that were from, like, Lucky Dip kind of bundles that I got, or they're from the scrappy packs from Little Woolly. So I don't actually know what any of these yarns are. And so I did one colour for the cuff and the toe, a different colour for the heel, and then for the leg and the foot I basically just did, there's 6 colours that are repeated twice, and actually I don't know if you can tell from this far away, but this colour here, I actually ran out of it on the first round. I didn't have any more, so for the second one I picked something that was similar, but I think to a very observant person you can tell that they're not the same, but I don't think...
Oh, so is that like this and this?
Yeah, maybe that's a better way to look at it. This one here and this one here are not quite the same, but to be honest, I don't think anyone will care. And I mean, there's obviously supposed to be scrappy, and I mean, if someone does care, like, I'm the only person that it matters.
It would be a very bizarre thing for someone to care about in like a negative way.
Yeah, I guess I'm in terms of, because they're just my socks, like, it doesn't really matter if other people don't like them, as long as I like them. So I just did 60 rounds for the leg, a fish slips kiss heel, 20 rounds of 2x2 ribbing for the cuff, and a standard, I think this is called a wedge toe, and I knit these 2 at a time on magic loop on 2mm needles, which is just my sort of standard setup for sock knitting. And then I was still kind of feeling the monochromatic scrappy socks again. So I did another pair, and this time I had some of this. I know for a fact that this is from Hedgehog Fibres. It's called UFOs, the colourway, because I had some of that left over. That was the one that I used for the contrast edging on that jumper that I made. Yeah, I haven't finished weaving in the ends.
Yep. Sorry, no, I was just like, oh, did I accidentally
no,
unraveling it?
No, definitely not. So I know for a fact that is UFO from Hedgehog Fibres, and then I know for the toe, and then so I did this sort of pop of colour at the cuff. I just did 5 rounds in the contrast, and then I did the other 15 rounds with a different colour, which I also used in the heel, which this one is called Neon Lights from Woolen Works. And then the others, there's actually, it's probably hard to tell, but in the leg and the foot, there's actually 3 different colours, but they're all basically white with speckles. So
yeah,
to me,
it have told me that I
kind of looks like all one colour, I think.
Known that they were.
Yeah, so I think because I had 3 colours, I think I still did 10 rounds of each colour, but it just repeats like 4 times instead of twice. The colour repeat. So yeah, and here is my second sock. So yeah, kind of like I guess it's an interesting, like it's a different like vibe that it kind of looks like they're all the same yarn, but if you look quite closely, you can see that like the colour of the speckles kind of changes, but the background colour doesn't really change too much. I think one of the yarns has a slightly more pinky kind of base colour, but apart from that, I think they kind of look the same. So yeah, these are just for me, and this one again I did the same, 60 rounds for the leg, 20 rounds of 2x2 ribbing for the cuff, and a fish lips kiss heel, and then just a standard wedge toe is how I finished those off, and all knit on a 2mm needle, and I cast on 64 stitches for my socks. I think I've experimented with enough different
that you found like kind of your perfect formula.
Yeah, that's kind of like my sock recipe, and I don't I don't need the pattern anymore. I can just kind of knit it. Yeah. So yeah, those are my 2 finished objects. So I guess now we can move on to our
the next section.
So we had a quick FO section this time around. I think our whip section will be a little bit longer this time.
Oh, do you have a lot? I'll see in 5 seconds, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Alright, so now it's time to jump into our next section, which is called Whip It Good, and WIP being an acronym for work in progress. So it's for any projects that we're currently working on. Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
You can go first.
Okay. I just have a little couple of things that are all on my lap at the moment, so that's why I'm sitting very still. So the first one is just a gauge swatch, which I mean, there's not really much to show. It's just like a gauge swatch. But so I did have in a couple of our previous episodes that I'd started knitting like a summer top in a bamboo yarn, but I decided to restart that one with I think this is a sport weight yarn, which is what the pattern was sort of originally designed for.
Yeah.
Because with the other yarn, like it was a fingering weight, and I just couldn't get gauge, and I was kind of thinking, I really don't want to spend a lot of time and effort
like making calculations and stuff.
Yeah, and like I think I just couldn't work it out. So in the end, I was just like, I'll just do the bigger size, because I think my gauge was too small, and hope for the best. But then I think I kind of thought after I'd done a couple of rounds, it's probably a bad idea, and potentially could end up spending a lot of time making something that I can't actually wear.
Pattern, what's it called again?
Heart on Fire from Dropped Studio.
Yeah, and because it's a tank with lace in it, so I think it's maybe not as simple as just like you would have to add like a specific, like I don't know with that pattern like how many stitches across the repeat is, but or either you might have to then insert like a sort of like a panel of stockinette under the arms or something, but it might not be as simple as just calculating.
Yeah, so I also kind of just figured for my first kind of foray into garment knitting, because I'm sure for someone who's a very experienced knitter, it would be no trouble for them to make the necessary adjustments, but maybe for me, because this will be my first time knitting a garment, that it's probably more likely to be successful.
Yeah, like I think I've definitely seen people, if they have, you know, a jumper or a top or whatever that they know that fits them well, but they like, you know, the cable pattern or the lace pattern from another, they kind of combine the two
together.
Like transplant this lace repeat onto this, you know, jumper that I know fits me really well. But I think, that doing that is like, I guess you could just, you know, dive in and say, worst case scenario, it doesn't fit and I frog it. But you could also...
Yeah. I do like the feel of this. I think I did the other yarn that I was using, the fingering one, maybe had a bit more sheen to it that I did like, but this still feels quite nice, and I think it will still be nice for...
And what is this yarn, sorry?
This is from Fiddlesticks, and I believe the yarn is called Cedar.
Okay.
So I think it's a bamboo cotton blend.
Okay.
If my memory is correct. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's that. And then the other thing that I've got, so I think I showed previously as a whip that I'd made some little like ceramic bells and like beads to go with them. So I finally ordered this. This cord is like, I think it's made of nylon, but it's like a synthetic cord that's used for doing like macrame. And the reason why I wanted to get a synthetic cord to hang these is because they will be for outside.
So like weatherproof kind of thing?
Yeah, because if you use like something like cotton, if it gets wet, eventually it can rot. And I guess also that it's synthetic, that I can use like a match or a lighter to kind of melt the end to prevent it from fraying. But the thing that I think I do need to figure out what to do is, like you can see that the colours of these are quite sort of like dusty and muted. And that's because I've just put an underglaze on them. I haven't put like a glaze, which is what gives like ceramic, it's that kind of shiny finish. But I can't really do that for these beads because things that have glaze on them can't touch like the shelf of the kiln.
Oh, okay.
So you would only be able to glaze
like
on one side.
Can,
or you would just glaze on one side, which I think for a bead might look a bit strange if it was only like, if it was shiny on one side and kind of matte on the other side. You can buy something called a bead rack, which is like this sort of like wire rack that can withstand the kiln temperatures.
And you sort of thread the beads
onto it. Yeah, you thread the beads onto it. But I don't have one of those. And also I think the like gauge of the wire in the bead rack is quite big. These would not be able to go onto a bead rack. So that wasn't really an option. I have bought this sort of like sealant stuff that I think people use for sealing like, you know, garden, like plant pots and ornaments and stuff like that. So I might give that a go.
Is that just kind of like a varnish type?
Yeah, I think so. And like I made heaps of these beads, and like you can see actually, like I don't know if it was maybe just like the way, like the temperature that they got fired to. I don't know if that's going to focus, but like you can see maybe that some of the bits have gone a bit kind of flaky, which I think it must be that the temperature of the kiln, because I don't have my own kiln, so I just take things to like a community studio and pay to have my work fired. But to give an example of kind of what I was hoping them to look like, this is something else that I made previously, but you can see that these colours are much more sort of bright and intense.
Let me hold the other one. And is this...
particularly with the red.
These were the same colours that you used.
Yes.
And that blue, the flower, it looks quite different.
Yeah, the blue as well. And the greens are like more muted as well. So I don't really know. Like I think I'm not sort of good enough and advanced enough at ceramics, and I don't know anything about how to fire a kiln because I just take stuff to the other kiln. But my understanding is that generally the hotter the kiln goes, the more the colours get sort of dull and muted.
Okay.
So I don't know if maybe, because the other thing, the sort of completed thing that I held up, that was when I was going to classes at like a neighbourhood house. So that was a completely different kiln and like a different person running the kiln as well. Whether they've maybe gone to different temperatures and that's why they look different. I suppose maybe
it's a little bit sometimes like yarn dyeing, that I think it can be hard to sort of replicate. Because I believe even things like the sort of like pH of the water and the chemicals that are in...
Yes. Like if you're not using kind of distilled water. Yeah. If you're using like just tap water.
Yeah, can change how things work. So maybe this is similar, that like very small discrepancies.
Yeah. But so I think I can still use these beads. I just need to do something to them to kind of seal them a little bit.
Yeah.
But so I'll try that sealant thing. Otherwise there is something called liquid quartz, which is another sort of sealing spray, but that's quite expensive. So
maybe try it. And if you've got lots of the beads, like you can
like if
have
one or two of them don't work out,
sacrificial experiment beads.
Yes. But so that will be to go with the ceramic bells that I made, and make some like little mobile type things for my
garden.
For my garden. So I'm just like trying to put it down on the
table. You
made
this mug actually, didn't you?
Table very carefully so it doesn't break. Yes.
Did you use? Is this one of the ones where you use like a textured rolling?
Yeah, and then I just like painted over the.
Yeah, so I think Pia bought a whole bunch of those like textured rolling pins that are for like embossing like cookies and stuff. But she used.
But like I think you can see, for example, some of these ones. Like I think some of these like flowers that looks kind of almost white or whatever. Like I think this was like pink or whatever. But that colour obviously
you might have to point that way instead.
Yeah. So like, for example, like this I think was meant to be sort of pink, but it's basically white. And I think it's just because this is stoneware, which goes to a much hotter temperature, that some of those colours just burn out.
Oh, and like you were saying, you can glaze this whole thing because this bit sits on the bottom of the kiln.
And the bottom of the mug doesn't have any glaze on it. Yeah, so I will try and figure out a solution for that problem. And yeah, I suppose something like this is maybe a little bit easier to kind of troubleshoot, because I think a lot of sort of ceramic problems that people have with glazes and that kind of thing is relating to making it safe to be used with food. But obviously these beads are not going to be used
just decorative,
for eating. So you could put like a little hors d'oeuvre on it.
Canapé.
But yeah, because they won't have anything to do with food. It doesn't really matter if the whatever treatment or chemical I put on it to make it not, disintegrate when it's outside. It doesn't matter if it's not food safe.
Cool. So I have 4 whips to talk about today. 2 of them are socks and 2 are garments. So I'll do the socks first. This one is called, and I've just knit the sort of cuff and a little bit of the leg of this one, is called the O Me Miserum or Miserum. I'm not 100% sure how to say that. I think it's Latin.
You need to brush up on your Latin.
Well, I guess like nobody really knows how Latin is pronounced because it's like a dead language. But anyway, it means "Oh wretched me" in Latin. This is a sock. I actually test knit this earlier this year for Jess Thompson, who's Knittin' Knotten on Instagram. And when I tested it, I tested the size 2 using a 2mm needle, and it was a little bit firm, especially around my ankle. So then I tested the size 3, but I used a 1.75mm needle, and I preferred the fit of that. So I finally frogged the size 2, and I'm now re-knitting, so to have a matching sock. So I'm knitting the size 3 with a 1.75mm needle. And this pattern uses a smocking stitch. So basically you just do like a 2x2 rip, and then every so often the design tells you to do these, you sort of like wrap the yarn around the stitches. And it creates, so that when it's on your leg, it creates this kind of, I feel like it almost looks like a cable effect, but it's actually called a smocking stitch.
And so do you have to use like a needle to like thread it through? Or?
No. You just basically I haven't done this for a couple of weeks. I think I'm trying to remember I think you slip a bunch of stitches, wrap the yarn, and then slip it back, and then it's a paid for pattern though, so I don't want to give away too much, but I know you can actually do this smocking stitch like post, like I think Fruity Knitting, their podcast, they actually had a few episodes ago, they had a whole bunch of projects that they had used smocking stitch on. And I think it's interesting because it can create these really cool patterns, but according to that podcast, the Fruity Knitting one that I watched, it doesn't really change the gauge of the fabric very much. So that's why you can do it afterwards. Like as long as it's a ribbed pattern. So I think they had this like 2x2 ribbed cardigan that they had made, and they were like, yeah, it's nice, but just wanted to like jazz it up a little bit. Yeah. And they basically just marked out with, I don't know, pins or something like that, different points to make this sort of like lattice work effect, I guess. And then, yeah, they just basically, I guess, like tacked these stitches together. And yeah, so I can put a link to that video in the description. But yeah, you can do this smocking stitch whilst you're knitting the fabric, but you can also do it as a afterthought kind of technique as well, I guess. So yeah, that is the O Me Miserum socks. Oh, and I should say the yarn that I'm using as well is from Heather Made, who's based on Etsy, and this colorway is called Grasshopper, and it's her luxury sock base, which is one of those high twist. So it's a fingering weight, but a two ply high twist sock base. So that's the first sock I have that's in progress. The second I have is actually a pair of socks. I'm a bit tangled up because I'm knitting them two at a time, but I'm on the heel, so I might just hold up the one that I've started the heel flap for, and just don't mind all the yarn spaghetti that's coming off. So these are going to be a pair of socks for my dad for Christmas. So this is just like a basic vanilla sock. For my dad's socks, I cast on 72 stitches, and but do it on a 2mm needle as well. I did just like a pop of colour at the cuff, because I wasn't sure with a 20 gram mini. I think with a 72 stitch sock, I wouldn't be able to get like the cuff, the heel and the toe. Yep. So I thought if I just do a pop of colour at the cuff, I will be able to get the heel and the toe in the contrasting colour. So the main colour I'm using is actually from Rainbows and Sprinkles, and it was part of her. She had like a Disney princess yarn club. So
her dad's getting Disney princess socks.
Yeah, and so
for Christmas.
the Disney princess that inspired this colorway is, I've actually never seen this movie. I think it must be like a recent Disney movie, Merida or Merida. I'm not too sure how you say it. And I think she's like this woman or girl. Like I don't know anything about the story, but she wears like a green, this sort of like a teal. Her dress is actually more similar to this color, but this is different. This yarn is completely different. I just thought it went well with the socks. But maybe her dress is like these sort of like very dark green speckles that are in the yarn, and then she has like bright red hair. Like I don't know if she's supposed to be like Irish or Scottish or something. So that is the main color, and then the contrast color is just a mini from Hugh Loco that I got in like a mystery, like a Lucky Dip bundle of minis. So I think this doesn't have a colorway, but I just thought it went quite well with the main color. Like it kind of is almost the same color as some of those darker speckles. And for my dad's socks, I have done a Fish Lips Kiss heel on his socks in the past, but I don't know, for some reason I just decided to do, I haven't done a heel flap and gusset for ages, so I thought I would just do a slip stitch heel flap for these socks, just for something a little bit different. So yeah, hopefully these will be finished in time for Christmas. Those are the two socks that I'm working on. The next whip I did show this in our last episode. So this is my broom sweater, which is a design from Andrea Mowry, and the yarn that I'm using is from Woolen Works. It's her DK Suri base, which I think is a 90% Suri alpaca and 10% silk, so it basically just has like a silk core, and the colorway,
see how it feels on my arm.
Oh yeah. And this colorway is called Fur Coat, so it was part of her Barbie collection inspired by Ken's fur coat. And I think in our last episode I had put the body on hold, which it still is on hold, and I had just picked up for one of the sleeves. So I've basically knit both of the sleeves, but they're also on hold as well, because what I decided to do was I kind of knit the sleeves until they came to maybe about here, and then the body I've kind of knit it that it comes about to my kind of belly button, and then I decided to wet block it because I've never worked with this fibre before. I know I have heard people say that alpaca can grow quite a bit when you block it, so I just didn't want to end up with the sleeves or the body being way too long, or something. Because I think because this is so fluffy, it will be a bit annoying to frog.
Another contribution from Julie.
Oh, thank you, Juliet. So it actually turned out that, and I don't know if maybe it's because this is a more like fluffier alpaca or what the reason is, or the silk core, I'm not too sure, but it actually didn't grow very much with blocking
so you
at
have
all.
Blocked it?
Yeah, I have. Okay. So now I just have to...
the sleeves are kind of normal length.
Yeah, so basically I think the sleeves are more or less ready to start the ribbing. The body, I think I might knit maybe just another inch or so and then start the ribbing after that. But so yeah, it's basically will be finished quite soon. But yeah, I suppose you don't have to be in a rush to finish that though, because you probably won't be wearing it anytime soon. No.
Unless you're going on holidays to the Northern Hemisphere.
No, definitely not. And just other details about this. So I'm knitting the size 5. It is recommended that you use a 4.5mm needle, but I had to size down to a 3.5mm needle to get gauge. But I've heard from a few other friends who've knit some Andrea Mario patterns before that she is a fairly tight knitter, so I guess maybe that's why I had to size down. But yeah, so that is my broom sweater. So it will be finished before next winter, but yeah, like Pia said, I'm in no great hurry to finish it now.
I mean, today was a bit cooler, but like yesterday
was 37 degrees Celsius, which I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
I think it's probably close to 100. Like it'll be in the 90s, I think.
Yeah. Then so my last whip is actually almost an FO. It could have been an FO if I had gotten up a bit earlier this morning or something, but doesn't matter. So this is the Mini Mock Neck Tank by Jessie May, and Kath from the Mindful Melbourne Maker and Sian from the Obsessive Maker are actually hosting a cowl. I think it's just the Mini Mock Neck Cowl is what they're calling it. So I decided to join in. I kind of had this pattern on my radar for a while, so I thought I'll join in the cowl and knit it with them. So the yarn that I'm using is again from Rainbows and Sprinkles, and it is her Neon Neps base. So I think earlier this year there was a bit of a craze that kind of overtook the indie dyeing world of this yarn that had these sort of really neon coloured tweedy bits in it. And so she had some, so I thought, I'll jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, cool.
The colourway is called Hot Pink. So I think the colour of the neps was the same for regardless of where you bought it from. I guess because it was all the base was from the same supplier. But then like people obviously dyed it however they.
So how is it that the neps like don't absorb? Like are they made from like a different fibre that they don't absorb?
I guess so. They don't take
dye?
Up the dye. I guess like I'm honestly not sure how that works, but
because there would be no other, like you couldn't like mask them with, I don't know.
No way. So I actually don't know. I'll hold it up a little bit closer so you can maybe see the neps a little bit better. And this is the first time that I've used like a tweedy yarn in a fingering weight. I will say that I've used, I've started knitting something with a tweedy yarn in an 8-ply, and it seems that with that one, the neps are like more twisted into the fibre, whereas in the 4-ply, I don't know, to me, it feels more like they almost sit on the surface. So I'm actually not sure like how this is going to go.
Oh, like with washing it and stuff.
Yeah.
If some of them will eventually fall out.
Some of them do fall out when you're knitting. Like I'm not too sure. I was house sitting for Pia last week. There's a bit on my jeans here. I was house sitting for Pia last week, and I knit quite a bit of it here. So I don't know if you found these little like neon bits of fluff all over your house, but so they don't. Yeah, I'll have to see how it goes. So sort of little bit more information about this. It is recommended to use a 3.5mm needle. I had to size down to a 2.75mm needle to get gauge, and I'm using a 2.25 for the ribbing as well. but I guess, you know, like you use whatever needle you need to use to get gauged. But the other thing that I thought would be worth mentioning, so
we're about to have a special guest.
Oh, Juliet's maybe going to join us. We'll see. I asked in my knitting group, like, if other people had knit this, and the main thing that a few people said was that they, like, if they were to knit it again, they would choose to knit a larger size, because in the pattern it's actually recommended that you knit it with quite a lot of negative ease. And yeah, they just said that they think it would have fit a lot better. Oh, hello, Juliet. It would have fit quite a lot better if they had used either, maybe we'll just pause for 1 second. We can let Juliet get herself situated on the couch. Yes. Okay, so I think I was saying that, yeah, so they said that they would recommend to not knit it with quite as much negative ease as the pattern recommended. So I think I've basically sized up 2 sizes. Like, I should have knit the size large, and I've actually knit the size 2 extra large, and it basically gives me no ease. And I've tried it on, and I think from my gauge swatch, it didn't grow very much with blocking. So fingers crossed that is accurate and it won't grow too much with blocking, because I think it looks quite nice. Like, I'm happy with the fit. And the other thing that I did find...
Because if you had done smaller, it would be like quite... it would be sort of like quite stretched out, especially over like the bust.
Yeah, the bust area. The other thing as well, like, I think if when I block it, if it becomes massive and I have to re-knit it, I think and I have to size down, I will still have to do some adjustments to the armhole depth, because with this size that's 2 sizes up for me, the armhole kind of sits like it's fine, but it is quite high. So I think if I had done the smaller size, it would be like way too high.
It would be
up.
kind of cutting into your armpit, which might be a bit uncomfortable,
and also just like a bit gross as well. Like, especially given that it's like a summer garment. So. Yeah, and I think just also, in summer, maybe having something made of wool that's, like, very tightly fitted is just not a great idea, kind of thing. Yeah. So I basically finished the whole thing. The only thing I didn't get time to do yesterday was the bind off. So I'm going to do, like, the tubular bind off. Yeah.
I suppose also if you have a bit more room underneath it that maybe is a bit more versatile, that in, like, autumn or winter... you could wear it with, like, a long sleeved, like...
Yeah, I guess
like
so.
One of those... you have some of those, like, long sleeve merino tops?
Yeah,
from Uniqlo.
Something like that.
I think that would look nice. Like, I think even, like, black underneath that would look...
Yeah.
Like that it would stand out quite well.
And I did, while I was knitting this, I did alternate skeins. So the bits where you're knitting flat, I obviously just changed every second row. Mm-hmm. And then once I was connected in the round, I did helical knit on this one, just because I think, so I had 2 skeins of this, and for the 2 extra large, I have weighed the leftovers already, because I've left enough tail to do the bind off. I think I have about 30 grams of leftovers. Mm-hmm. But one of the skeins I had just looked a bit lighter than the other, so that's why I decided to helical knit, even though it's not it's a tonal, it's not a variegated colorway. I just thought it would distribute that slight variation in the colour a little bit better if I helical knit. So that's the mini mock neck tank that I'm knitting as part of that cowl. The other thing that I thought I would share about this, which has got nothing to do with the garment, but I just thought it could be interesting for people, I found through a channel called Nicole Knows Knitting, a technique that you can actually knit a gauge swatch in the round, but it doesn't have any floats on the back. And so I will link to the video where she explains how to do it, because she will probably do a much better job of it than I can, and she actually has like a video tutorial. But basically you kind of knit your first row, and then instead of just doing like a loose-ish float on the back, you actually measure that you want your float to be 4 times the width of your fabric, and then you start knitting with it, and then you slide all the stitches back to the other end, and then instead of making another loose float, you already have this super loose float, but it's actually loose enough to knit with again. And then you end up with basically, and I guess like the more experience you get, like the smaller you'll have. Like some of the loops that I had at the end are pretty small, like a loop that's like that long. Some of them are a bit longer because I maybe misestimated very, very slightly. But you basically just end up with a bunch of loops at one end. And sorry about that, the memory card on the camera just had a bit of a glitch. Yeah, so I think what I was saying was that, yeah, if you do those cheetah swatches in the round where you have a float across the back, if you make the floats really tight across the back, you then have to cut through them to be able to block your swatch flat. Or if you leave the floats really long, like it just, like, I don't know, it's a bit messy and annoying. So, yeah, I like this technique, and I probably would use it again if I needed to.
Well, and it probably uses up less yarn as well, wouldn't it?
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
If you don't have like the really long bits along the back.
Yeah. So I will link to the video where she shows how to do it, because she has like an overhead of her kind of knitting, so like you can see how to do it. But it basically is that you make a float that's 4 times the width of the fabric, and then you use that float twice, I guess. But yeah, I'll link to the video where you can see an actual demonstration of her doing it. And obviously, you know, I didn't come up with that technique, so we'll give credit to the person who invented it, or not invented it, but that's where I saw it from. So I think that is all of my whips. So yep, I guess it's time for
our last segment.
Yep. So now it's time for our last section, which we call dreamweaving, and this is where we talk about our dreams, so any future plans, projects that we want to make, and also we talk about any acquisitions. So I do have some acquisitions, but I also have some plans.
Yes, yeah, that's fine. Just acquisitions is sounds like the way you would phrase it if you trying to sort of convince yourself that you're not buying new things or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I've acquired something.
I think that's the term that I've picked up from watching other podcasts. No, it's fine, but I think that there sometimes there is a little bit of like the people say like my yarn inventory or whatever. And it's like, you're not a warehouse. Like although like some people do have enough yarn to fill a warehouse, but all right. So
Present company included.
I will first go through some acquisitions that was not my fault. It was, I actually won some yarn. So I'll show those ones first. Yeah. So I've been to a couple of the craft cinnamonites that I think So Hooked Crochet. Her name's actually Juliet as well, Julie.
Oh, so, what a nice name.
Yeah, you'll be friends with her straight away. She organises these cinnamonites at various cinemas across Melbourne, and I think they don't turn the lights all the way down, so it's like dim but not dark, so that you can work on like a craft project while you watch the movie. Mm-hmm. And the one I went to recently was at the cinema in Yarraville, and the movie was Clueless. And she had like some prizes, and I actually thought when she started announcing the prizes, like I think the first 2 were some project bags, I was like, oh, I didn't know there was a raffle. I would have entered if I would have known. But it turned out she was just like picking a row and then a seat number, so it was like a door prize. Yeah, and so I actually won this 4 skeins of yarn, which was very unexpected but very cool. And they're actually hand spun yarn, actually spun by Carly from the knitting group that I'm in, and I actually in the cinema I was sitting next to her.
Imagine if she won.
I think they probably would have been like, oh sorry, we have to do a redraw, like you can't win your own yarn. But yeah, so I won 4 skeins, 2 of each different one. So I'll show this one first. So this one is called Orange Coloured Sky, and this is a 100% merino, and it's approximately an Aran weight. So there's about 95 metres in each of these skeins. So I was actually thinking that I might find a little vest pattern and make a vest for our nephew for Christmas out of these. Cute. Like I think I could probably for an Aran weight vest, or if not, I could use like a contrast for like the ribbing around the neck and the waist and the armholes. If I didn't have quite enough yarn, but I think that would at least be enough to knit the body of a vest for our like a little nephew. Toddler. Yeah. Yep. And then the other 2 skeins are The colourway is called Milestones. And I think Carly, she's a jazz musician, so all of her skeins are named after jazz songs, but I don't know. I'm not a connoisseur of jazz myself, so I'm not too sure. And so these are a lace weight, so there's about 250 meters in each skein, and the composition of this is actually 60% guanaco, which I believe is a similar animal to an alpaca.
Are they like really tiny alpacas?
I think it might be the smallest of like the sort of llamas of the
because there's llamas, alpacas, and there's an animal called vicuña.
Vicuña, yeah, and then I think it's guanaco.
Well, you're the Spanish speaker.
Yeah, in Spanish I would say guanaco. But anyway, 60% that, 25% silk, 12% cashmere, and 3% angora.
Oh, and Angora is a type of goat, isn't it?
Yeah, and so it's like a purpley.
So what would you make with this? Like
probably a shawl, yeah.
Because it's
a lace weight, yeah. Or you could hold it with something, but I think maybe in a shawl, like would just let it kind of have its own moment and not be kind of
quite soft.
Yeah.
Because of, this
it sounds like everything in it is soft. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, it's soft from the cashmere. Oh, no, it's soft from the angora. It's soft from the silk. I don't know. I presume this guanaco is quite soft as well.
Well, if they're smaller than alpacas, surely they're like...
Yeah, I think I have
softer.
this impression that the smaller an animal is, like the softer it is.
Except if it's like a small lizard or something. It's a camelid.
Yeah.
Closely related to the llama.
Does it tell you if they're like relative in size to the... Oh, it lives at higher altitudes than vicuñas. I wonder if, maybe it's got to do with like the altitude that it lives at.
They stand between 1 and 1.3 meters at the shoulder.
Oh, yeah, then they're definitely very small, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And their weight is 90 to 140 kilos.
Cool. Yeah, because I feel like when we went to that alpaca farm, they were like as tall as us. Probably.
Yes. I mean, people can look up Wikipedia about alpacas, but this thing says, Wikipedia says alpacas are between 130 and 270 kilos. So, okay. Well, no, sorry, that's llamas, but yes, so they're smaller than llamas.
Anyway. They're definitely smaller than llamas. But anyway, that was a very nice surprise. I did not expect, I didn't even know that there were prizes for attending. But yes, there was, and I was lucky enough to win a prize. So yeah, if anyone actually has any good recommendations for a vest pattern, our nephew, he's going to be turning 2 in January, but like I would want it to fit him kind of more in the winter. But he is, I think, on the small side for his age.
So maybe like a size for a 2-year-old.
I think for a 2-year-old would work quite well.
Yes. Yes. Actually, someone I know from work who I think she does a bit of knitting and crochet, and she said that when she was doing things like for her daughter, when her daughter was a toddler, that she made quite a few vests, because I think she said you just get like a bit more time that they can wear it out of if it doesn't have sleeves.
Yeah, okay. And I guess maybe even if it's one that like
if it's a sort of a cardigan style, like a button up vest.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Then when it gets a little bit too small for them, they can just wear it like not buttoned up.
That is a very good point. I will take that into consideration. Okay, so then this is an acquisition that was my fault, but I bought it on my birthday. So
well, that's an excuse. Yeah.
It was our birthday recently, and we did like a little day trip to the Mornington Peninsula. So we went to the Arthur's Seat chairlift, the hot springs, the Mornington Peninsula hot springs, and the Heronswood, is it called?
Yes.
It was a really nice garden.
That has like a little cafe in it. And then we also went to the Mornington Rose Garden as well.
Oh, that's right. But then also can't go to the Mornington Peninsula without going to Little Woolly. And we'd never been there before. That was my first time visiting there. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I was quite interested to have a look at was they stock Noro yarns, because I've always been intrigued by Noro yarns, but I find them very confusing because they seem to have a lot of bases that are all slightly different kind of fibre compositions, but not different enough for me to fully understand.
For it to be obvious, this is for socks, this is for...
Yeah, like what it would be for, and also like what it would feel like. So I think I don't think I would be confident enough to buy Nora yarn online unless it was just a different colour of a base that I had already been able to touch. And I think, I don't know of anywhere in like Melbourne CBD. I could be wrong. Or like the sort of suburbs of Melbourne.
I have seen some vendors at some of the like yarn markets.
Yeah, I think so. But I guess I just didn't really have anything in mind. But so this yarn that I bought, and it comes the ball. They're 200-gram balls. Is called kakigori, which apparently is the name of a shaved ice dessert in Japanese. You might be able to have someone he is going to Japan next year.
Yeah, so also you can put in an order for some Nora yarns. Although actually I think I did, just out of curiosity the other day, I was like wondering, I wonder is there much difference in price to purchase it in Japan? And I think there was some website that I found that was a Japanese like online website, and then managed to translate it into English, and I think there's actually not that much difference in price.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends a little bit on how the Australian dollar is performing against the yen
at the time,
as well. But I think there wasn't too, like, maybe the difference for buying this would be maybe about $10 per ball. So it wasn't like it was half the price. Like that.
Well, yeah. So this one is they say it's a DK weight, but it's 600 meters in 200 grams, which to me is more of a sport weight. But I guess I'll just knit up a swatch and see like what the fabric is like. But so the blend for this one is 50% cotton, 30% silk, 10% viscose, 10% polyamide. So that's what I mean. And this colorway is called color 13. Like, they don't have names for the colors, they just have numbers. And it does have like quite a lot of color variation. But yeah, like a lot of their fibers are sort of blends. So I think you just want to feel it yourself to be sure that that it will work for kind of what you have in mind. So I was thinking, I bought 3 of these 200-gram balls to make some kind of like a lightweight sort of summer jumper, summer weight jumper. I was thinking a lento, but I think that uses a DK weight gauge, and I'm just not sure if it might be a bit too open. So I might swatch for that and see how I go. Otherwise, look for a different pattern. And I know a lot of people, when they use Nora yarns, they hold it with something else, but I think I want to use it just as it is, kind of thing. Because I think like it being a cotton based yarn, like I think then holding it with like a mohair or whatever would then kind of defeat the purpose of it being like a more summer appropriate yarn. I think that would just not really work. So I bought 3 of those, but I just brought one to show they're all the same. So that is my last acquisition. And then my other dream weaving is just a plan. So I just the other day applied for and was accepted into another test knit. And this is the designer. Her name's Flaminia, and she goes by Knitting Flem on both Instagram, and she has a YouTube podcast as well. And I believe this is going to be her first design, or like her first design that she's, I guess, publishing commercially and not just kind of making for herself. And so it's going to be called the Sandro Pullover, and it says it has a European shoulder construction, which I'm not entirely sure what that is. It looks similar, like the images to me, it looks similar to a drop shoulder construction, but I'll find out when I start knitting it. And it's for a DK weight yarn, and it is all over cabled sweater, but the cabling is very infrequent, so you actually don't have to cable very often. So I have been picked for knitting the size 6, and the yarn that I think I'm going to use, it's not set in stone, like I haven't started or anything, but I think just because I have this in stash,
and it's suitable,
and I do like it, and I think it will look nice in that pattern as well, is this yarn from Bendigo Woolen Mills. It's their Woodlands 8-ply, which I think was it seems like every year they basically have some kind of tweedy DK weight yarn, but it's limited edition. So they don't actually have this anymore.
Oh, but you have enough to do.
Yes, I do, definitely. But I think next winter they will have something similar, but maybe not 100% the same. So this one is a blend as well. So it's 83% wool, 10% bamboo, 4% mohair, 3% neps. So I think that little bit of mohair just gives it the tiniest little bit of a halo, and the neps or the tweedy bits are sort of multi-coloured, but the colour of the yarn itself is just kind of like a neutral off-white, or maybe even, would you say that was a light brown? No, that's probably a bit of a stretch. Off-white.
I don't think it's brown.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I would say it's off-white.
Off-white. And this one, the colourway is called River Sand, and these ones, they come in 200-gram balls, and I think it is 400 metres for 200 grams. So that is what I am thinking to use for, it's called the Sandro pullover, and the test runs until sometime in February. So I'll probably get started on it soon, but I don't, like, it's a fairly long test period. So I will be sharing some more photos when I get started, but that is kind of my next main plan. Like, once I finish the mini mock neck, I think I'll probably prioritize this over the broom, just because it's a test knit, but that's what I'll be getting started on soon. So what's your dream weaving?
Well, I still haven't cast on my baby project for Cam and Kim. So I need to.
Oh, neither have I. Don't worry.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be like. I don't think I'll have anything finished when the baby is born. But
that's okay. It's that it's in progress.
And I am having a bit of time off over Christmas, but not actually going away. So I will hopefully have a bit of time to. And if it's anything like I think last Christmas, like, because it was like really hot, and like couldn't really do much stuff outside. I think I basically just, for my whole like period of time off work, I kind of just sat on the couch watching TV and knitting.
Sounds like a good holiday to me.
We'll see, depending on what the weather's like. And then I guess our other dream weaving is our sari.
Oh yeah, some actual
workshop.
weaving. Yeah, actual weaving. Yeah.
So we booked that in yet?
Yeah, I booked it in. Yep.
To do a workshop with Heather from the it's Art Weaver
Studio
in Templestowe. For the sari style of weaving, so that will be fun. I do have like a vague idea of what I would like to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure if I will think of something or if I'll just on the day see what fibres.
Because I suppose it's also just like seeing what kind of fibres she has at the time.
Yeah.
And then we also have another Japanese themed workshop as well. So Anna gifted me for my birthday a voucher to do a kintsugi workshop, which actually just quickly Google like what is the translation, but it's when you see like pottery that has been repaired with like gold. The meaning literally means golden repair.
Oh, golden repair. Okay, cool. I somewhat, I don't know if this is selfish or not, I gave Pia like this gift voucher that said
the two people.
This voucher is for you and a friend to go to this kintsugi.
P.S. Please, can I be the friend?
Can you please choose me? Yes. So we're doing that. Oh, we haven't booked it in, but probably we'll do that in December. I think they have a few dates available. Yeah. And I think in the workshop, like, they provide the pottery for you to repair, but then
presumably they also break it for you, because I suppose like if you have
smashed into a million
if you have a fairly short time frame
learn more the technique rather than
and they probably don't want people to bring in this sort of gigantic plate or
like a big vase or something. And I imagine maybe a plate, something flat, is easier than something three-dimensional as well,
probably.
But I think then they give you like a kit, like a small kit to kind of then go and do your own kind of one.
So that will be that should hopefully be quite fun. So that's our two like Japanese themed.
Oh yeah, they're both Japanese, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes, I think because I'm going to Japan next year, like I've booked a trip to Japan. I'm just like a bit obsessed with Japan. at the moment.
Why not? So yeah, I guess.
And actually, I can probably ask Heather, because I think Heather, who runs Art Weaver Studio, has been to Japan many, many, many times. So
she might have some good recommendations of like even just like, you know, craft, like where to buy craft supplies and stuff like that in Japan. If there's anything.
And I would like to, because I think when I arrive, like I've booked on to do a tour in Japan, but I've got I think like 4 or 5 days in Tokyo before the tour actually starts, and there is a Saori studio in Tokyo, and I think they do allow like international visitors to attend workshops, so I might ask for her sort of recommendations.
Or if she has like a contact that could help you organise it. Yeah,
because I think they're on their website they just have like sort of a generic email address, but I can ask her if she would recommend going to that. They do say on the website, I think they have like a bit of a disclaimer that there's no guarantees that they're of the sort of English proficiency of the staff who will be, you know, running the workshop at the time. So I think maybe for international visitors, they recommend that you have maybe some experience. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I should definitely have time to fit it in anyway.
Yeah. So I guess, and I have been watching a few like vlog or like, I don't know what you would call it, but like reviews of people who went to that, Nippori fabric town.
Oh.
There's like this street, I think in Tokyo, that has like a million like fabric shops. And like some of them, there's this one, I think it's called Tomato, is like 7 levels or something. Like it's like sounds like quite insane.
Sounds like you'd probably spend like an entire day there.
Yeah, so I might request something,
put in some orders
from Nippori Fabric Town. But I think we'll watch a few more of those vlogs to give you like a bit more of a
because if you just buy me something cool, I'd be like
anyways, so that's probably about all for this episode.
Yeah.
So our next video will hopefully be a knit and chat, and maybe we might give a bit of a recap in the knit and chat then of the Saori workshop and the kintsugi,
if we have done both of them.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And I think there's a All About Fibre and Yarn festival or day or something like that on the 7th of December as well, that I was kind of thinking to go to. So might film like just a little snapshot of what that was like. But yeah, that's basically all for today's episode. If you did like the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you are not yet subscribed to our channel and you'd like to see more of our videos, we would love to have you as a subscriber on our channel. And of course, we always welcome any comments or feedback. If you've got pattern suggestions for either my Noro yarn or a little vest for toddler size, I would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, apart from that, I guess until our next video, we wish you happy stitching. Bye.
Bye.